Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by Cool70.com, Mana Traders, as well as Twitch subs and Patreon supporters just like you. My name is Evan Irwin, and get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Power Dragon.
What's up, everybody? And I guess we can say the old folks are out of the house and the new folks moved in, but it's like half the family of the old folks in the house. I don't know how that works.
Well, we'll cover all of that. Ruben Bressler.
I mean, yeah, you moved and you got different roommates, but a lot of the roommates are the same.
Now, if you missed our pre-show, patrons get access to our extended version right after the show is over, and we kick it off with our first pick and our promo code reminder. Visit CoolStuffInc.com. Right there on the screen, use promo code MAGICMICS to get 5% off your next order. Tell them that we sent you. We really appreciate that. Get anything you want in the store, single sealed supplies, whatever. 5% off by using that code, and support your favorite streamer with your suggestions at the end of the show to see who we rate tonight on Twitch. All thanks to CoolStuffInc.com. Cool stuff in stock. And now we move here to the first pick. And as big as this has been over the past few weeks, we culminated into an announcement that there will be a Commander format panel. We have culminated now into an actual announcement / article on the Wizards website introducing the Commander format panel. And considering we have somebody who's on it, I'll just let them talk about it. So Power Dragon, take it away there, buddy.
There's a few ways to actually, you know what? Let's do something fun too. If you have questions, go and put them in the chat. We'll field some of those questions as we go along. But yeah, this was a kind of an interesting thing for people. Wonder how long this has been going on or been talked about. Like literally, I signed my contract. I believe I got it back to Wizards on either Saturday night or Sunday morning. So this is not like, oh, y'all been planning this for 2-3 weeks. No, like we all kind of had our talks with Wizards and Gavin and whatever, and like, you know, got it all sorted. If you even wanted to be interested or not, they put contracts together. We signed contracts, and then the announcement was made on Tuesday. So for people who are kind of like, oh, what about this? Are you working on this? Is this thing like we're still talking through a lot of things, right? There's a lot. Nothing is immediately going to happen. Nothing's immediately going to be decided. Even the what are we calling the bracket system? You know, is a thing that's still being talked about. So there's not going to be anything ready for Vegas. You know, everybody decided, hey, we need to really like comb through this and really be a thing. And Gavin also made it a point, something that we talked about too with the previous organization, is making sure there's representation from different places. You know, part of that, using Japan as an example, anybody knows anything about Japanese card game culture, it's super competitive over there. Doesn't matter the game, you know. And they're finally starting to make traction with Commander. So it's like a big thing. So you need somebody there to like, hey, why is this changing? What stores are doing well with it, right? So there's somebody from Japan, you know, on this new panel. You know, I think we have somebody from Brazil on the panel, you know, so really cool to have that extra kind of worldwide recognition. Also people that are competitive, people that are casual, people that care about the store level, people that do TikTok stuff, people that do YouTube stuff, right? Covering all the bases so you can have a real serious conversation, which is nice. Now, at the end of the day, everybody's opinions basically equal weight among, I guess it's 18 people, I think was the number. But Wizards gets to make the final call, right? So now they are saying like they're going to take a lot of what we say into consideration. That's what we're going to use to drive decisions. But ultimately, you know, they make whatever decision announcement they want to make at the end of all of it, you know, and that's the understanding. We knew that when everything was handed off. But yeah, I think it's a good first step overall. I think it's the right direction. I think everybody feels good and positive. Also, I want to say for people who weren't included, it wasn't because they were excluded, right? If there's names you saw that didn't come back from the CAG or the RC or whatever, that's by their choice. Right, for various reasons. Shivam being the most public, saying, look, I just need some time off. Like I took an emotional beating for the last 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
Totally understand. And the door's still open for him to participate as well. It's not like anybody's told, well, this is it, right? So I don't want there to be any misgivings toward anybody or any assumptions made that like, oh, they didn't like this. Or they're like, no, people are okay to make their own decision. No bridges were burned for anybody. No relationships were destroyed. But yeah, so question, how does this differ from being on the CAG? Which, by the way, if you go to my YouTube channel, you can just look up Power Dragon. Like I actually did a 30-minute Q&A this morning, or actually it's an hour-long Q&A this morning as well. So you can get more details if there's something we don't cover here. But how does it differ from being on the CAG? I think it's significantly different. You know, partly in the sense of, one, everybody's got the same level of opinion. I don't think it's a secret at this point that the rules committee made a decision without all the feedback or taking into consideration the feedback of the CAG, which was kind of our goal, right? That was our job. And that kind of led to some very bad things. So Wizards knows that they're trying to avoid that. The other thing is, it's no longer a full volunteer position. There are actual contracts for pay. Now, it's not a crazy amount of money, but it's something. Whereas before, it was absolutely nothing. It was just
scratch is better than no scratch at all. I mean,
yeah, it was just for the love of the game before, right? Like now it's an actual thing. So
right. Well, now you're contributing to $1 billion company who's managing, their game and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so everybody's got a stake in the game now, and I think that's a big change as well.
That's cool.
How long do contracts last? They're 1 year. Some people will come back, some people won't. What's that based on? It could be a pile of different things. It could be our individual engagement opportunities have changed, culture changes. Maybe they decide 18 people is too many. Maybe they want to shrink it down to 12. Like, it's the first year. So like a lot of first year programs, things are going to be made up on the fly going into year 2. There's going to be a lot of research. So nobody has a hard answer right now. But if at any point me or somebody else, wherever your favorite person isn't included anymore, don't get bent out of shape about it. Nobody's like being fired. It's nothing like that. It's just needs or wants or whatever change, and people are going to come and go, and that's fine. So sometimes it might just be they need fresher eyeballs, or for all we know, I don't know, Commander kicks off in South Africa or something, and they need to get more South Africans in or something, or whatever the case is. So yeah, I wouldn't sweat that part too much.
In the interest of hearing my own voice and also sharing the space, and also for the podcast listeners, I will ask the next question from our
go
chat.
for it.
And then Evan, you can do the same if you so choose.
Sure.
Pharmacist Judge has a question. Thanks, Pharmacist Judge. Did they address potential safety concerns?
Not what I would say in the explicit way that I think people want the actual framing to be like for your safety. No, but there's the understanding that, hey, no matter what happens, Wizards is now the shield because they're making the final decision.
Right. That to me is the way they addressed it is they said, we will do the final decision.
Right.
So we will get any blame, good, bad, or ugly. And that's the shield. That's the safety, concern being taken care of. Now,
I will say, Gavin has already given direction to people of like, hey, don't feel like you have to answer certain things. If this is an issue, you could direct it to this person.
Mm-hmm.
I think I told y'all last week, like I even got a message from Wizards and Reed Pop for this weekend. Like, hey, if you feel you need a place to get away, we're going to have an area set up. If you need extra security, let us know. Like, so they're treating it very seriously. Like they understand what's at stake and kind of what's gone down. And, I don't think anybody feels uncomfortable at this point.
Yeah, I'll read one from YouTube over here. It's a little bit of old news, but we might as well.
Who's it from? Who's it from?
I'm getting there. Give me a second.
All right.
Frank Two Cheese says, was the change of power to Wizards orchestrated? The series of events smells orchestrated to me. How do you orchestrate it when you contact them and give them the thing?
But come on. Okay, here.
Right, but let me put it this way, because it needs debunking if they're asked.
Let me put it in business terms. If you can have, as a business, an outside organization of volunteers that you never have to touch or do anything with, and they do all the groundwork, right? They're the boots on the ground. They do all the research. They make all the decisions, and you get to make all the money. You would much rather have that.
For sure.
Right? Like, you don't have to touch it. You don't have to do nothing. Like, no blame comes your way. You don't have to waste any resource hours on it. Like, They absolutely would rather have that. Believe me, Wizards didn't necessarily want this. Like this, I think we were eventually going to need that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether, however you want to look at whether it's 5 years, 10 years, whatever, I think eventually. But I don't think Wizards really wanted that because now it's a whole other set of work. It's a whole other set of contracts for legal to write up and check and verify.
Yeah.
And like now there's payments that got to be dealt with and, probably setting up extra stuff at the conventions now or where, it's a whole thing.
Right.
So yeah, like it was definitely not orchestrated. I can tell you 100%. Whether you want to believe me or not, that's your call. People believe whatever conspiracy they want to believe. But I have no reason to lie to you. Like, if it was, I would just tell you. Like, they're not going to be mad that one of us said something at this point because the other group's gone now. So,
because I feel like everything has kind of been said as to, like, the why and the how and the when. And, like, none of this was like clandestine. You know what I'm saying? We
Not
all
at
saw
all.
this giant wave of bullshit, hate, awfulness, and
Here's the other
language,
thing,
but
right? Wizards effectively had some easy go-tos for chase cards, right? Between the Jeweled Lotus and the Mana Crypt. They would not have wanted to make that decision to get to this outcome.
Yeah.
They would have went another route to try to make that happen. So like any path you want to make this a conspiracy theory doesn't add up. Like it just doesn't. Not from a business perspective.
Right. Well, I think the way that it gains traction. I understand, because you can say from Wizards' point of view, if they control all of it, then they will not do things that would disrupt financial markets, blah, 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 blah. I get it. I understand. That is inherently something that they now have the power to control. But that doesn't mean that they started the gears to make all of that happen. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing.
Again, look back at the last 15 years. They've increasingly made more and more money with the old system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not like, oh, we need to change it because Commander's not making us enough money. No, that system was working, making them piles of money. That's what I'm saying. They didn't want this. This is just what happened, and it became the best decision.
For sure. Witet has a question. Witet. Sure. Thank you, Witet. How soon will we see any of the new panel input in Commander, with WotC operating months in advance?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably not a while. I mean, if you see anything from us, it probably would be more likely to be, and I'm not saying there is, I'm just saying things that could be affected would be more likely like a banning, unbanning type thing, something to do with maybe language around stuff for making player engagement better. The bracket system, that they talked about previously, we're still talking about that. So you're more likely to see something like that before you see our input on a product. Like, because some of those things you're already making artwork and everything for stuff for the next year is already done effectively. So we wouldn't even be able to touch any of that.
Is any of it going to, and this is just my own question, is any of this going to include your feedback or any of your thoughts on upcoming like mechanics, cards, decks type things?
I think so, but
because I can imagine the NDA like covers the ability.
Yeah,
to do so.
I don't know if it'll be in like the most literal sense, but like if we bring up something and say like, hey, when we're having these discussions, as an example, say cards that take extra turns keep coming up on our list as problems.
Right.
Like maybe we just, if there's one of those in development, can we talk about it or whatever? And and then Gavin will probably bring it into a meeting or whatever, and we'll have that discussion over it. But that type of stuff is more likely to happen. I don't know if like a hard mechanic would be a thing, but there's definitely I can tell you we're already seeing some conversations where like there's some cards we all kind of go like, yeah, that's probably should be competitive only or something, because whatever, right? Now, an interesting thing that has developed though, and I think earlier I used Cyclonic Rift as an example, where a couple people say, well, man, every time, and I'm one of the people who says every time I see Cyclonic Rift cast, it just draws the game out for another like 5, 6, 7 turns, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Too often the guy or person casting it doesn't even have a way. Like I literally have asked somebody when they cast it, like, hey, do you have a way to win in the next couple turns? And they say no. I'm just like, hey, then just don't bother casting. Let's let this other. Yeah, I'm not even the one's going to win, but I'm like, hey, let's let this other person win so we can wrap it up and play another game. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, there are certainly like any Wrath effect is like you should have a plan.
Sure.
Or I mean, certainly an Armageddon effect. Like you should have a plan if you're doing something on that scale to make the game end. Like it should be progressing a game plan and not merely trying to survive, of course.
Yeah, but
I've also done a thing in Commander where I realized that the power level of my deck was different than the other decks at the table. And I will be like, what I'm going to do now is demonstrate a loop. However, I am done. Like I did the thing my deck needs to do, so I'm going to concede and let you guys finish playing the game.
Oh, that's neat.
But coming back to Cyclonic Rift though, there's other people in the discussions already that have had the opposite experience, where each time somebody casts it, the game's almost over.
Yeah.
Right. So now we're at an interesting impasse for conversation, because some of us are saying like, oh, we hate it because this always happens, and like, oh, we're fine with it because this always happens. Right. So that's going to be one of the interesting things. If we do end up with a bracket system, okay, does that mean it should only be a 2? Right? Or should it be a 3 and only be in the most competitive decks? Right. So I think that's why you need this group with this diverse level of backgrounds, because those are very different play experiences trying to balance all that out.
Now, one of the things I did want to address, and this has been a question over here on YouTube, where people brought up the non-disparagement clause, as that's been
Sure.
a whole thing. Now, Gavin Duggan had originally brought this up, and he was one of the original Commander Rules Committee founders. And the vendor contract says there's a surviving non-disparagement clause, which means it limits what they can say about them forever and so on. And then here comes the corporate lawyer. And they said, this is not some crazy conspiracy or Watsy ridiculousness. Yep. This is straight up normal for third parties / contractors working with a company. Any company with a half-brain legal team, especially a publicly traded one, has this in their contractor agreements. Companies have a legitimate interest in a non-employee spilling their dirty laundry after having access to confidential information or discussions. Okay, so let's bounce over here to Rachel Weeks. And she notes, the clause in the contract we sign only mandates we don't use privileged information to disparage Watsy. If we provide critique or dissent, it can only be supported by public information. And I think that's perfectly fair. And there was a little bit of too much freaking out over what become nothing more.
The thing is, this is the tough part about social media, right? And I'm not going to disparage Gavin because I like Gavin. We've had me and Duggan have had some very fun conversations at events and hung out. Yeah. So this isn't anything against him, but I think the problem is when you put something public like that, it lands in front of a bunch of people who have no idea what that means. Right. They just see some words, and if it can be interpreted negatively, it will be, and then it gets a life of its own. The reality is, I did work for Facebook in like the beginning of the pandemic in like late 2020, early 21, right? Like it had language in the contract like that. I've signed contracts like that previously with Wizards. Yeah. I've worked at Wizards. They know about my podcast and things, and I've said things about Wizards, and I just worked on a project with them that goes live tomorrow. So it's like that. There's nothing stopping us from being. Matter of fact, Gavin said both in the article and privately, explicitly, they do not want us to hold back. They don't want us to change our opinions. They don't want us to make our content any different. Those are all reasons they want us involved.
Right.
And it would be weird to our followers and our viewers or whatever if all of a sudden we just like, oh, we're never going to say anything bad about Wizards anymore. Right. Like that'd just be weird. Right. So that's not what they're aiming for. It's like Rachel pointed out. It's if we, I don't know, saw some play data or some financials or something, and then we made some type of statements or it became a story, and now that financially hampers Wizards for some reason, either being able to do business or whatever, then that would be a legal issue to deal with. But if they make a card we don't like we just come out and say like, man, R&D goofed up on this card. They shouldn't have made this. And they don't care.
Thanks to Mr. DJ Longhair for donating $5 on YouTube.
DJ Longhair, I know that guy. He's followed me for a bit.
Nice. They say I predict unbannings with multi-variant versions to push expensive / premium sets. And, at some point, it's a for-profit company. And the other point is there's going to be tons of conspiracies about any change they make whatsoever. So I don't know if they're winning any of that question.
I have a comment to respond to that, which is there are people who are upset that the bannings occurred for financial reasons.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Whatever. Like the rest of that conversation doesn't matter. Your feelings are valid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what you do with your feelings that is perhaps not valid, depending on if you were a bully or a mean person.
For sure.
Etc. But also, cards can be printed, be legal for a time, and then be banned, and them still have had their desired effect for the company and for the play experience.
Oh,
the
absolutely.
Cards that we had, Mana Crypt, Jeweled Lotus, Nadu, Dockside Extortionist, were expensive and were highly played and were highly competitive and very good in their format, and now it's time for them to retire. It's not that you've never had those experiences. They are now moving on to something else. So, of course, Wizards of the Coast should absolutely find something that replaces or at least attempts to replicate that experience that you got, the joy of playing a turn 1 Mana Crypt, the joy of playing Nadu as your commander, the joy of a Dockside Loop, whatever it is. They can replicate that and make it slightly weaker or tweak it slightly and change it slightly so that it is not quite so toxic or not quite so oppressive, or in Nadu's case, not take quite so much time.
Well, that too.
to sell additional products. If they come up with 2/3 of a Jeweled Lotus next year, or they come out with a mana crypt that adds 1 mana instead of 2. Cool, man. That's just more Magic cards that are going to be playable.
Yeah, let's make a jeweled tulip.
That's right.
And it's not like, I mean, for example,
Mana
Jeweled Lotus.
Tomb.
Now,
Yeah.
I agree there was a giant hit at the very beginning, but Jeweled Lotus is back up to $63 as a card.
Yeah.
Like, that is not a cheap Magic card. And that's still banned. This is like a recurring nightmare situation where that card is still banned and it's still very expensive. If they unban it, would it get way more expensive? Absolutely. But this is not a card that is like unreprintable. It's just a card that's not legal in a format that you might play that they have now officially sanctioned.
Also, let me say that one of the conversations that comes up a lot at events is like, y'all should unban X. And honestly, most of you have terrible opinions and no, we shouldn't. I'm just gonna put that out there. We just shouldn't.
Amazing.
Like, it's mostly like, I'm a fan of this card and I would really like to do this dumb thing. You should unban this card. Like, it's not gonna happen.
I've got those. I keep those opinions to myself.
Yeah, there's maybe realistically, but like if I look at the ban list with a like very critical eye, no more than 2 or 3 cards really. And a couple of them are even a little bit of a stretch.
Come on, like Biorhythm, y'all.
Let's not.
We're not.
No.
We're not.
I'm not going to get
Power Dragon in charge.
I'm not trying to get Power Dragon in trouble. Whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't even play the format, so what do I?
But it's tough, right? It's a tough thing. And will a couple maybe, but I can tell you right now, with conversations that are happening, like none of it. Honestly, I can tell you 0 times already from what I've seen has anybody even mentioned a financial whatever, right? Because first thing is it good for the format? Is it healthy? Does it make players happy? Does it help Wizards sell more cards? Right.
That's the biggest part.
If things become valuable later, great, right? But that's not the initial goal.
So I have 2 questions that I'm going to ask that you cannot and should not answer. But I'm going to ask them anyway, because if I didn't put them into the universe, this is the conversation that is around Magic the Gathering right now, and we should discuss at least the questions existing. One is, Power Dragon, how much is Wizards of the Coast paying you to do this position? And I don't think you're legally allowed to tell me, but if you're willing, go ahead.
I can at least give you a rough ballpark. Let's see. It is... I will do greater than and less than if I can think of something here. But it's
greater than. Just give me greater than.
Just give it greater than. It's greater than $100.
Oh yeah. It's greater than $100. Like it's not I will say it's not what I would even say is the equivalent of like a part-time job. So it's not even like that. So it's not like, we're making the equivalent of a 40-hour week or whatever, because they don't expect that amount of time out of us. Right. But it is enough to at least make it worth our time. It's not like they're taking advantage of it. So, because I know somebody will say like, "Oh, Wizards just trying to get cheap labor." It's not like that.
Yeah, no. So the second question is, and I don't think I want to talk about this question. I don't want you to answer this question.
Sure.
The question is, how do I even ask this question? The question is the Josh Lee Kwai situation. That is the question, which is that he had perhaps the most volatile takes and the most fervent conversation when the changeover from the CAG and the rules committee to this new system was occurring. He then went and had his interview with the professor and is now a member of this new the new panel.
Yeah. Commander format panel.
And he's obviously a pillar of the Commander community, but there was consternation and some upset voices concerning how he behaved during this last month. Do you have any thoughts that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Like, I get genuinely why everybody from the players to the CAG members to whatever felt the way they did. Like, again, like I mentioned, and again, when we saw the announcement, it was, depending on when you saw the message, privately, it was somewhere between 24 and 36 hours before everybody else saw it. Like, and there was kind of the thing of like, well, I didn't feel that we needed, like, there's other things I wanted to address first before we even got, like, we knew those were potential problems, but where is this coming from? And I think Josh's approach was like, hey, this is what we were brought in for, and we weren't consulted to help with these things. And now we have to deal with the brunt and the fallout.
Right.
And so I totally get why he was upset about it. And and the RC members, they've apologized, and everybody's good now. But I get why he felt the way he did. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like
Sure.
inviting him in, like he has valid.
No, I don't. Yeah.
He
Well,
has
the
a big
issue-
community. Like
right.
it makes sense.
As I understand it, the main issue was he had a little bit of the "I told you so's," and he went a little too far with the "I told you so's," and
Yeah, that's fine.
that's just kind of that's where it went from from this boiling level to this boiling level. But
think about it this way too. If Wizards was concerned about anybody saying anything, and anybody was going to be upset or uncomfortable signing a contract to do the thing, Josh and Wizards, that would have been the situation.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, and the fact that they invited him in says that opinions are not going to be a problem. The fact that he was willing to sign that, knowing what has just gone down and what he said on the record, that he was not afraid to sign it, says he has no concern about that clause. Right? So that should solve a lot of people's anxiety right there with just that situation.
And so, and as for the money thing, this to me, even if I just said, just $100, whatever, like if you do just a little math, if you say, and again, it's more than 100, but let's say it's $100 a month or whatever, across 17 people for a year, that's over $20,000. Like that's just, and that's just where you start. And we're not even,
that's where you start. For sure.
So it adds up
and I will
really
include,
quick.
like, there's probably going to be some people invited to go to some of the Command Fest over the next year or some of the Magic Cons or whatever. And I'm sure they will pay some of those things, or there will be appearance fees or whatever. Like, that's not anything we've spoken about, but that's just kind of how Wizards works and ReedPop works when they do stuff. So there will be other benefits for people as well.
Right. That's income, and you'll pay tax on it like any other income you get as a creator. Like I know because I do that for creating stuff. So so that's still a thing that's happening. Even as they're getting this, this income, they'll still have to pay taxes on it. They'll still all be reported. Anything they brought to like a Command Fest, their airplanes and air flights and their hotels and all that.
Yep.
Cool.
Keep track of all them receipts.
One last thing for me is I'm just curious because I think it's neat. How do you primarily communicate? Is it just across Discord servers, or are there like Zoom meetings or whatever?
Right now, like for the group at large, it's mostly Discord. Like this weekend, because there's a big event, several of us will probably meet up and talk or whatever.
Right.
But there's also some individual conversations that'll happen with each other as well, right? Like there's going to be some conversations that, say, Lewis Stardust will probably have with some people that I won't be part of because they do competitive Commander. I don't do anything competitive, right?
Right.
But when we're talking about some of the most casual stuff, or somebody wants to get into a discussion about, like Itetu as an example, I think they're the one from Japan, wants to talk about stuff at the retail level because they're trying to get some stuff going with stores or the language they should be using for players. Like, okay, we'll hop separately and have that conversation, right? Because that's where my expertise is. So it's going to be a little different depending on each person and kind of what their background or expertise is. But as a group, those discussions are mostly going to be on Discord.
Is there and again, just curious, is there like a schedule? Like, we're here every Wednesday, 10 o'clock Eastern?
Right now, no. And I think that's also probably always going to be the case, except for in instances where there's like, okay, there's a pressing thing we want to talk about because maybe it's related to an announcement or related to a product or something that has to be met at a certain time.
Yeah.
So I would imagine we'll probably schedule 2 different meetings over a 24-hour period. So depending on where you are in the world, you can make it at a reasonable time. But other than that, no, stuff's just kind of like, hey, everybody gets tagged, and it's just kind of like, over the next day, if you see this, give your response, or, an emoji that says you saw it or whatever kind of thing.
Sure. So in an effort to close out the conversation, I just want a summary. I would like if you have some ideas of a way to answer this question, what is something that you will miss about the old system that is not going through into the new system, or a part of what happened over the last year or so? And what about the new system do you like the most? I mean, getting paid is great, of course, and that can be the answer.
Yeah,
but
that's obvious.
What are you most excited for the new system, the new game?
Yeah, I would say from the old stuff, there's something nostalgic that goes with it, of just like, this is like a homegrown,
right?
Like
we're just some friends on a Discord server.
Yeah, a grounds root effort kind of a thing,
right?
But I also think going to the new setup, everything is more defined, more clear. Everything's contractually backed. It's not, well, I guess we can make it up as we go along, or kind of by the seat of our pants for like on the spot decisions, because everything's got to be checked now. Right? Like there's a a billion dollar boat that we're riding
Right.
on now, right? Like we got to check everything. So I like that aspect of it. And I think when we want to get stuff done or have conversations about things, like now we have the direct connection to Wizards, right? It's not like, okay, well, let's talk and let's see, we'll get the right person and we'll get a thing started. Like we literally have Gavin as the head, just like,
Yeah.
Gavin Verhey right there. And I've tagged him multiple times already on Discord. Like, hey man, I'm gonna do this thing. Are y'all good with it? Awesome. Hey, we should talk about this. Or like, hey, here's a thing to bring up to somebody in the company if you haven't yet, or whatever, right? So that's making things a lot easier and probably gonna make things move. I say faster. Big companies gonna move as fast as they can move, but
Yeah.
faster than they probably would previously.
Yep. All right, so let's go ahead and move on here into Gather the Townsfolk, where we talk about fun stuff in the community. And as we do, we want to thank our sponsor, Mana Traders, the best tool to enhance your Magic Online experience. Use the code MagicMikes_IQJ, that's _IQJ, for 10% off your next subscription with them. Tell them we sent you, and we appreciate them sponsoring the show. So, Mother of God, thank you, Wizards. Thank you so much. I said this about a week and a half ago or so
You
on
did.
Twitter.
You called this one.
And I said, look, Leyline of Resonance is not a fun Magic card in Best of 1. It's not a problem in Best of 3. It's a problem in Best of 1. And there is a level of just the wind out of my sails every single time my opponent is on the play and drops this stupid card. So thank God, as of yesterday, Leyline of Resonance is banned in standard Best of 1 constructed formats and suspended in Alchemy the same way, and they're going to rebalance it somehow. My guess is you're going to pay some mana to do the effect.
Probably.
But regardless, it needed to happen. It literally just sucked all the fun out for me. Every time it happened, even if I was on the play, and even if I had a piece of removal, I just kind of wanted to concede just so I could play more interesting Magic with somebody else. I know exactly what you're going to do, and you're either going to have it or not, and that's going to be the whole stupid game.
And that was my argument for people. I said, I have beaten it many, many times,
Sure,
but my problem was they were always non-games, right? That's the problem. Like, I get 1 or 2 pieces of removal, then my opponent doesn't do anything over the next 5 turns and the game's over.
Yeah.
Or, they get the nut draw, I don't get a removal, game's over in 2 or 3 turns, right? And I think that was the biggest problem for me, that it was the card creating the most non-games, which leaves you just feeling, even when you win, you don't feel good. No. You know what I mean? A card like that, even if it's not super powerful, just doesn't need to really exist in that environment, honestly.
I think the most important part of it was that, because again, Best of 1. What does Best of 1 do? They hand smooth, and I assure you, if you've only been playing Best of 1, go play some Best of 3 and get some real opening hands, bro.
Right.
Some actual opening hands, because they smooth things, which means they want to give you things to do during the game. That's how it works. And if you mulligan a few times, you're probably going to see the cards you're looking for. And again, same system where I'd see somebody mulligan, they'd concede. And I'd be like, wow, I'm glad I fired up the client and took the time to pick a deck and pick a format and blah, blah, so you can see if you get your crap and it's over. It's like, I hated it. So it's a lovely decision. Thank you so much, Wizards, for doing that. It was definitely the right one, which was appreciated. All right. Okay, so Wizards has finally unveiled the first official Marvel product for Magic the Gathering. My lord, y'all. If y'all thought Lord of the Rings was big, I don't think you're prepared for what's about to happen.
I've already told people, if Wizards comes around and says they've done more than $1.5 billion and $1.7 billion in 2025, wouldn't even be surprised. Because between Marvel and Final Fantasy, they are going, people are just going to be emptying their wallets. They can name their price right now on stuff. Yeah.
On November 4th, there is a Marvel Super Drop that includes, new cards for the hero cards, which is cool, a hero subtype, which is rad. They have a whole Captain America with the mana symbols arranged to red, white, and blue, which is super cool and interesting. They are, I believe, more expensive by $10. Their non-foil is $40 and their foil is $50. This isn't, I think, out of the realm of previous setups. I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me in the chat. But also, as licensed properties, and these are very expensive licensed properties, you're just going to see that kind of throughout the release of these, I'm guessing.
People are going to buy it anyway. Like, I literally have seen so much excitement. Like, they could have been $15 more than they are, and people are still going to buy them. Also, side note, all you people are like, why wasn't the Black Panther Black Man? Like, y'all are stupid. Like, just for real. Just, like, that doesn't even make sense with the character. Like, why would he be Black Mana? Like, come on. Like,
Think about it.
Y'all are dumb.
Like, man,
like, stop.
This is the first reprint of Ice Storm since Unlimited.
Yeah.
Since Unlimited.
That's a good one.
It's 1994.
I mean, it makes sense for the character. You know.
Oh, it's
now,
lovely. I love it.
How many people are actually going to play with it? But like, it's cool to have it a reprint, though.
Oh yeah, and Storm as the character that they've made that gives things Storm. First of all, that's beautiful. I love that. Secondly, It seems fantastic in Commander. I've already seen tons of Commander players be really excited about this. If I were to pick up just one, if you just had money to pick up one, pick up the Storm, because if Commander players are going to go nuts over it, these aren't going to last forever, and people are going to want more Storm Force of Natures. And if you got one, you're going to make.
I think it's interesting, right? Because I think there's a combination of some people want them because of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people are just going to like, I just want the one with the most value.
Right.
Which is very interesting because, like, for me personally, like, I like playing +1/+1 counters and other stuff, wherever. That's like one of my favorite Commander decks. So Black Panther, I'm like, yeah, that's the one I'm going to buy. Even though, like, dollar wise, it's probably like, it's the least valuable probably, even though it's not like trash, but like it's compared to the others. So people are like, why would you pick that one first? I'm like, because I play that in a deck. Like, of course, that's the one I'm going to want, right? I'm actually going to use the cards. But if you want to get, like you're saying, Storm, because it has the Jessica's Will and the Ice Storm, well, hell, that's probably $35, $40. Even if the prices come down on those because they're reprinted, that's probably still $40 worth of value between two cards.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So I totally get why or even the Iron Man, I think, has one of the like $30 reprints, and Cap has Shield of War and Peace or whatever. So there's good reprints in these things that are $20 and $30 a piece. And again, assume they lose 10% or 15%. Like, you're still getting a big chunk of your money back, not counting the other cards. So it'll be interesting to see which ones people go after, because again, Storm probably going to be hot with the super competitive players, but casual players are probably going to look at Storm and be like, nah, give me that Captain America so I can move all my equipment around. You know what I mean? Like,
look at how perfect is Berserk for Wolverine's secret.
Oh, absolutely. That's just, that was a given. Yeah.
I also like that they, just like from a design standpoint, a lot of the cards are just mechanically unique in really interesting ways. That don't make them any more powerful, I don't think, but they're just, fun and interesting, like Storm giving cards Storm in a way that I don't think anything does. Wolverine doubling its damage, not having just double strike.
Right.
The mechanical effect of, Iron Man working in his workshop, the mechanical effect of Cap throwing the shield, like all of that, like, came together really nicely.
Oh, and we're just getting started.
Yeah.
This is the very first product. Oh, y'all, I'm so pumped because the first
and they announced Spider-Man, and we haven't even seen Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Marvel Spider-Man is going to be the first Marvel set, which is fantastic. Again, for
also,
me,
somebody asked, are we going to get a Capcom secret layer so we can have the crossover? I actually think in the future we're going to get a Capcom or something like a Mega Man, like maybe Universes Beyond Commander set, I think is what we'll probably see.
Right.
One of those franchises or two of them that you could break into 4 or 5 decks. It's probably what we'll end up.
Marvel versus Capcom Commander decks, like, Jesus Christ. I can only nerd out so hard, all right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
you probably can't do that because you probably have to get the licenses all over again and whatever, but you could do some Capcom products separately. I think you get away with
if you had to, but you want the chocolate and the peanut butter, right? That's what makes the best taste. Now, do note that if you buy over $99 worth of stuff, you get a Arcane Signet as Earth's mightiest emblem. I don't know. A lot of people are like, why isn't this just Command Tower? Because it's the Avengers Tower, whatever. Trust me, I'm sure they've made a bunch of Command Tower stuff for Avengers Tower later. But also note that this isn't, and I saw some discussion about the bonus cards for big orders have not traditionally done that great. Like, there are kind of misses amongst there where, like, I think it was one of the last ones they did, someone mentioned they're down like $8 now or something for whatever it was.
But sometimes you get stuff that's not that playable. It's just like cool to have included. Like this Arcane Signet, though, people will play with that.
They will definitely play with it. So it's pretty rad. And again, I think these cards are cool. I love the reprints. I love that they put some good money, and a lot of them, anything they can be more thematic. And I think Wizards obviously figured this out a long time ago. But the more thematic you can make it, the better it's going to be. Every
And honestly,
little thing you can hook into.
$99 is basically either 3 sets or 2 foil sets.
Yeah.
Right? That's not that hard to reach for a lot of people to get that.
It's true.
Because usually it's like, oh, you have to buy the whole big bundle to get the special thing. Now it's just like, oh, if you buy 2 or 3 of these, we'll still take care of you.
If I can only buy one, and again, I'm the value guy. I've got stuff sitting up there on the shelf that's been collecting dust for many years.
Oh, it's $199, not $99. Okay,
it's $199.
Gotcha.
Thank you. But I would buy Storm, and then I would buy Captain America, and I'm not sure about the rest after that. But those to me are the two, like, really. These are going to be, they're big, they're huge characters, really cool designs, good cards in both of them. You can't go wrong with, like, Jessica's Will or whatever being reprinted, regardless of whether Storm's any good or whatever. But yeah, I think these products are great, and I'm really excited about next year and Marvel.
I'm going to buy a set, probably stick them in the closet, and I'm going to buy a separate set so I can actually play with my Black Panther card.
There you go.
Like, that's probably what's going to happen.
But why isn't it Black Mana Power Dragon?
It's just like, if you know anything about the color black in Magic, like, why would you do that to that character?
Right.
Like, he's literally the opposite of everything that black mana is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that doesn't make sense.
They did make Steve Rogers white.
Hey,
fair.
And red and blue. This is my attempt at a joke. I don't know.
It's
fine.
fine.
But he kind of had to be, right? Red, white, and blue.
Yeah,
if he wasn't,
of course.
We'd have been
and they printed it in red, white, and blue order, which was the original order they gave in Apocalypse, which was nice.
And
I saw that.
And do note, they specifically noted during the talk of the Comic-Con that this is a multi-year expansion. There will be many, many Marvel sets. I'm guessing at least 3.
For sure.
If not more, honestly.
Like, we can 100% go deep on Doctor Strange. We can go deep on, Thunderbolts stuff.
Incredible
when the Thunderbolts
Hulk.
are coming.
You can have like
X-Men.
a villain set, right? A villain set and like a hero set with like the
look at Marvel Snap. There's 8,000 unique characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We can go as deep as we want.
Yeah.
By the way, that Soul Ring, if you're into Marvel, that's a chef's kiss moment. Like, using the little arc reactor or whatever as the Soul Ring, like, that's
really good.
That's a good move. That's a good move.
Yeah, and the Avengers Fair was a beautiful choice. I thought was great. Yeah.
Iron Man built this Soul Ring in a cave. With a box of scraps.
Yeah, exactly.
And or the frame, and it says proof that Tony Stark has a heart.
Yeah.
Both of those are my favorite about that, which I thought was cool. So moving on here a little bit, the Foundations event is coming and whatnot, and there have, as usual, been some cute little teasers that have come from Mark Rosewater. This is one of my favorite things about any set, really, and this is from all the way back in the 90s, y'all. This was in Duelist, and now he's been doing this online for a long time. He just gives you a little pepper right there, a little spice to try to figure out what's going on. And there's an 8/12 creature with Ward 4. Why? First of all, why? But it's fine. There were another one. There was a card with 7 evergreen keywords. I think a Talpa, the big white creature with double strike flying and so on. I think it has like 5. So 7.
That's why not? I mean, if it costs like, I don't know, 12 mana, like let's do it.
Like original Acroma had 8, right? Or
did it?
Somebody correct me.
I don't know.
Chroma.
He did flying haste, pro red, pro black, pro strike.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think she maybe had
8.
6. I think she had 6.
Yeah. So I think he notes a card that's in the top 10 cards that he signs. I think Maro is an easy reprint.
Sure.
The old 4 mana star.
To be fair though, that if he said number 1, I would probably say Maro.
That's fair.
Top 10, I feel like that could be a lot of things.
Sure.
And I do think he set us up for a bit of a rug pull, in which he notes a Magic Invitational winners card gets reprinted, and no, not the most powerful one, which I think is Dark Confidant. And then later, just a little bit down, he says target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. I think they want you to think it's Snapcaster, but it's going to be something
they're 2
different.
separate cards.
Right.
So
the reprint's going to be Solemn Simulacrum.
Oh, well, there you go. So And that's
That's where my money is. That's where my money is.
Sure.
And that makes sense. But yeah, I think this is cool. It's always super fun. I love the silly creature types. There's going to be Eldrazi in the set. There will be a
Yeah,
creature
not
Eldrazi.
happy about that.
Why?
But we'll see. I've never been an Eldrazi fan. Like,
look, man, there's going to be a hyena rogue. All right, that's important.
that sounds fun though.
A bear demon. I'm on board for the bear demons.
Yep.
Let's go. And yeah, and some cute names for the set like Electro Duplicate, Fishing Pole.
Nice.
What does Fishing Pole do?
Well, we have a lot of tokens that make fish right now.
Well, it's an equipment.
And look,
yeah, I don't know what it does. That's a good
one
one.
word
makes a food. It turns a creature into a food token.
I would imagine it makes you a 1/1 fish token of some sort.
Or you can sacrifice a fish token to get something.
To get a food token.
Yeah, it could be a food token.
Right, you can like
it could be for mana.
Make a fish.
Oh, it's like
mana.
a trading post.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
You turn your fish into gold.
Yeah,
That's sweet.
Oh, the treasures, right? That's cool. I love it.
We did it. Hire us, wizards.
And also, like the fact that we have a few one-word short name cards in Refute and Stab. Like I know we had Stab Wound, but just Stab. I love that. That's really
great.
Cool.
It's probably like some red or black card that just like deals with damage, get a thing or something.
Yeah,
like
it's like black, target creature gets -3/-3.
And you gain 3 life or something. Like it's something. But yeah, so I think that's always fun and neat. Congrats out to SaffronOlive on Tuesday. That would be this last Tuesday was the 10th year anniversary of writing their first article. And from 2014 to 2024, I think the man has carved out quite the career for himself so far.
Yeah, congrats, SaffronOlive. That's a heck of a milestone and pillar of the community.
Yeah, I've just barely hit 5 years of doing content. I'm like 4.5 in on my daily YouTube video train. So
I'm about
10 years is a long time, man.
I think I'm 18 now. I think I'm in the 18th year. 2006 was when I first made my stuff. So yeah, it's a hell of a thing. But yeah, congrats to them. We'll move on here. I think just turn the corner here to the finisher. Let's go on here. Now, One Piece was delayed, the debut of its Fishman Island remaster, thanks to the Major League Baseball World Series, is a sentence that exists now. I don't know exactly what that means. Baseball is already a huge sport in Japan, but there's also interest in this year's World Series due to the fact that it features Japanese superstar Shohei Ohtani. Now, tell me, what celebrity news could delay Magic events, Ruben?
The last of the classic Las Vegas Strip casinos, the Trop, was demolished this month. And MagicCon Vegas 2025, or 2024 for that matter, would absolutely have to be pushed back if another of the city's architectural wonders suddenly turned into dust, Chris Angel, because he's a pillar of the Vegas and the Magic communities.
Oof.
That's fair. Okay, so the MagicCon Chicago this winter could actually be delayed if the worst team in Major League Baseball history, which, by the way, if you don't know, the Chicago White Sox literally had to play some games in the season that were going to decide if they had the worst record ever, and they finished with the worst record ever, which is a sad thing at this point in baseball history. But if they decided to make the move to sign the greatest player available on the free agent market, Air Bud, we could have some problems. But there's no rule that says dogs can't play baseball. And honestly, he'd probably be better at retrieving the balls and bringing them in from the outfield than the White Sox actually were.
Ooh.
Hey, just keeping it real, man.
Keeping
it real.
I don't watch baseball, so I could tell. Now, an historic Magic event is coming up soon as the 10th annual Magic Mixies is slated for this December. We will have no choice but to postpone should the unthinkable happen if somehow, some way, against all odds, any other format managed to beat Commander as the format of the year. I think it's the 9th. Is it the 9th?
Is it going to be the 9th?
Well, we started in 2015.
It might be the 9th.
So then we did it the first
year. It might be the 9th.
Might be the 9th. Either way, that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Power Dragon.
Hey, it's always good to be here, and I hope we answered some of the questions people had about the new Commander stuff.
Hope so. Thank you, Ruben.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Power Dragon. Have a great time at the Magic Con, everybody. And if you are in the Bay Area for Big Bad Con, I'll see you up there for a different type of gaming, tabletop role-playing games.
And I'll just say go to Blue Sky. Let's go. Everybody get on Blue Sky.
Everybody come to Blue Sky.
Blue
Oh, we
Sky's
should have
fun.
talked about Blue Sky this week.
Yeah, you can follow us on Blue Sky at magicmics.bsky.social. Check us out. We appreciate it.
Let's add that to the thing.
Absolutely.
To the doobly-doo.
I can't add it at this very second, but we will. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, Mana Traders, my co-host, Power Dragon, and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us on our exclusive member Discord, live on twitch.tv at Magic Mics, live or taped on our YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, and join our TikTok at Magic Mics Cast, or follow us on Blue Sky at magicmics.bsky.social, or join us here next week. Same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.